A reminder to all our podcast listeners, the Dead Pair podcast is now an affiliate with Negrini Cases. Please visit thedeadpair.com and click on the Negrini link at the top of our webpage to visit their site and see all the great products they offer. Negrini, we case your memories.
Welcome to the Dead Pair podcast with your hosts, Jason Rambo and Sean Alley. We bring you all things sporting clays. Our focus is bringing new shooters to the sport and helping all shooters by giving you the most useful info from coaches, pro shooters, gun clubs, product and service specialists. The Dead Pair podcast, what every shotgun shooter wants to hear.
Paul?
Dead Pair.
Welcome, everyone, to the Dead Pair podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rambo, and with me is the big man, Mr. Alley. What's up, bud?
Buddy, I am doing great. The weather's finally starting to break. We're leaving this Arctic tundra behind us.
Yeah, you got a little early jump start on that coming back from Florida. Well, hey, listen, in studio with us, we have Mr. Bill Elliott. Bill, what's up, buddy?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Good, doing real good.
Glad to see you.
Looking forward to this episode. We're going to get Derrick Mine on the phone here in just a minute. Before we get into that, Bill, what's new with you, man? You down in town for Cardinal Center doing some coaching?
Yep, coaching there all day today. I'll be there tomorrow. The weather's beautiful. I got to shoot with Sean on, what was that, Sunday we shot together, Sean?
Yeah, at Dan's place, yep.
And Sean was lighting it up. Would you shoot 95, 96?
96.
96, so
Yep.
It was great to see and just fun shooting with everybody. And family's awesome. I've been coaching a ton, and, you know, the weather's finally starting to look up. Just wrapped up a really cool article that I'm writing for Clay Shooting USA called Coaching Chronicles Shooter Themes, and it really just looks at the three it's actually going to be a series of articles coming out. I'm trying to work on my own game, work on committing myself to a stronger practice routine with stronger intent, and going to get on the road to a few tournaments this year, so everything's been awesome.
Yeah, that's what Sean and I are kind of looking at, is getting on the road a little bit. I think we're going to branch out and spread our wings. At least I'm hoping for the big one in October.
Yeah, he's trying to talk me into going to the Nationals. I'm probably going to go with him. I think it's something we've been wanting to go to for the last couple of years, and with the COVID thing, it kind of put everything on a damper last year. So.
Like I told him, he might as well just go. I mean, his wife already hates me anyway, so he might as well just go and have a good time. And you know,
I'll be there for sure. And I know, like I was just at the Zoli Classic. I'll be at the Northeast Regional, Nationals, and gonna pick a couple other ones to go to. I remember back in the day talking to David and Tom C, and they just said you just have to get on the road. Yeah. And I would always disregard it, and they're right. You do. I mean, if you really want to take your game to the next level, you just got to get out of that comfort zone. And so, yeah.
Yeah, coming back from the Gator Cup, I can wholeheartedly agree. I mean, the targets that you see at the bigger events, the way they are set up. I mean, Doug Vine set the targets for the main, and it's not something you're going to see at your average local club. Even at a state shoot, I don't know if you're going to see the kind of target that I saw at the Gator Cup.
Probably not, but if you wouldn't shoot the non-registered fluffy targets on the sporting course and come over and shoot AFS.
Well, AFS was full. I was wanting to shoot at AFS, but it's obviously in demand, so it was already full. And also knowing how the wind is out there on the FITASC field at Dan's place, it's wide open. The sporting course is in the trees, so a little less breezy.
God.
Ruthless. Jason Rambo.
I know, right?
It's going to be Jason Ruthless Rambo.
Just cutting the legs off from me, man. I mean, come on.
Jay, you shot pretty well this past weekend.
He sure did.
So great job, man.
Appreciate
awesome.
that. Yeah,
I took first both in AFS and the FITASC event in your class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, congrats, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate
that.
Keep
it up.
Yeah. I could tell you, you know, Sean, I told Bill on the phone earlier, I didn't think that was a number that was going to hold. I was really disappointed in myself. And then when the score started coming in, I'm like, wow, really?
Well, I mean, come on. Dan sets some fantastic targets. I mean, when you're talking about FITASC, there's not very many people in the country that can match what he throws out there.
Right.
So.
Well, speaking of that, I hope everybody got to catch up. 2 episodes ago, we broke news about the American Field Sporting Game Board Classic.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm really seriously considering getting down to one of these qualifiers.
Yeah.
See if we can make it happen.
Yeah,
so.
That'd be nice. It's definitely going to be a big event and very memorable for the first people that get to shoot it.
Yeah. Speaking of big events, Bill, do you want to help me here elaborate a little bit on this Masters Cup that Scott's throwing at C4 coming up that's what, in June?
End of July.
That's right.
It just came out a couple days ago.
Of July, right before the state shoot, the weekend before the state shoot.
Nice.
I think they're trying to do something that hasn't been done in the northern part of the United States. If you look across the board, they're trying to put something on the map that's going to attract shooters to come up here. And, you know, when an event like that is being put on if you're a masterclass shooter or whoever you are, it's awesome to be able to shoot alongside of these people. I don't look at it as I get to compete against them. I'm not competing against anybody.
Right.
I'm shooting alongside people, and it's you versus the target. And so for them to put this event on, to put that kind of money out there, they're bringing in a target setter. I think it's just going to be awesome. And for those who say that they don't believe it can be done, I think they're trying to do something that they believe can be done.
Yeah, and you know what? That's really good points you brought up because, you know, I posted this both on our Facebook page and our Instagram page and catching a lot of heat from a lot of different angles, and I don't think people understand what this shoot is intended for. It's not intended to bring in 2,000 people. It's not intended for all the concurrence. This is the best. He wants the best of the best. He's trying to get, you know, I don't want to speak for him. Scott's going to be coming down here soon and talking to everybody about this, but he's working on some different publication angles, let's put it that way. You know, direct online viewing, some TV, some, you know, he's talked about us being there. He's talked about, you know, getting some pictures in the magazine. This is something he wants to see the best of the best go head-to-head, and he's putting up a purse that nobody else will.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like a showcase of all the top masterclass shooters, for, if you will, and that definitely, that purse is big enough, I know, to attract quite a few people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the things you have to consider is they are just trying to do something that's premier, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
They're trying to put on a run of show that can be repeatable for years to come, and when one club in this sport is doing well, typically the next club in this sport does well, and what we want to do is create this bubble of excellence in Ohio so that, like, whether it's Cardinal, whether it's Hillendale, whether it's South Cuyahoga, whether it's C4, whether it's Eagles Nest, whoever, that when you know you come to Ohio, you are coming to a premier club that's putting on a premier run of show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know, the other cool thing, too, I was talking to Scott, is, yes, it's a $25,000 purse, it's a $10,000 HOA, but this is all still legit on win score. I mean, you can play options. I mean, really, if you're on fire that weekend, you could walk out there with a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's, I think it's neat. I'm excited to go watch it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and be a part of it that way and say, hey, I could say that I saw the best of the best compete right here in Ohio head to head.
You might be a master class by then. Right? Why not? Why not
funny.
you? Why not you?
I don't know. I got a long way to go. But I appreciate your belief in me, but
Why not?
I got a long way to go. Hey, we've had a lot of questions for the coaches.
Yes, we have.
Dug through, picked two really good ones. Bill, since you're in studio, we're going to kick this off with you. I need to check with Mike Luongo and Gavin Miles and see which one of them was available for next week. But Bill, if you're okay with this, I'd like to go ahead and get this fired off.
Yeah, it sounds great.
So we had a question come in from Jonathan V. I think you know who he is, Bill. He writes...
Big shout out to Jonathan in Michigan, I think.
Yes. He writes, because it's getting harder to find ammo for practice, is there any tips on how to practice more efficiently at the range?
I think there is. When I was at the last time the only time I went to nationals, I came home and I was flying home on the plane. I'm like, I don't ever want to miss another slow, close, tight angle trap shot ever again in my life. And I think so often we can get pickpocketed on targets, and typically that comes from just not practicing with intent. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, Bill, you get 200 targets to practice this week, or you get 250 targets, or you get 125, whatever it is. I'm going to be specific. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to lock a trap house up as a straightaway, and I'm going to run a trap grid, And for those 25 shots that I take on that trap grid from the 16-yard line on that straightaway that's locked up, I need to be 100% present and 100% perfect. If I can't be 100% present and 100% perfect on that shot, then it's going to carry over into a tournament. The other thing I like to do is I like to practice on the skeet range where I can work on my mechanics and my technique. If I'm working on a trap field, typically I'm working on timing. Finally, probably one of the things that I would do if I was you, Jonathan, is something to consider is if you think about a round of 100, think about how many targets we get pickpocketed for. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed that one, or I missed that one here, and I missed. And so instead of taking a 6 out of 6, you take a 5 out of 6, well, or you take a 7 out of 8. Well, over a round, those may equate to somewhere between 5 to 8%. Well, imagine if you had those 5 to 8% back. So what I'll do is, and I don't like to use the word easy, I call it less technical. So what I'll do is I'll pick out 5 pairs on a sporting clays course. So that's 50 targets, and I'll try to be perfect. Less technical targets, shoot a perfect 50. And then from there, typically, I don't think I've ever been able to do it. Jeff Foster and the Target Line group, they talked about this in the past. And, you know, I've shot 48s out of 50, 49s out of 50 when I've done that. And then what I'll do is maybe I'll pick 25 to 50 targets and do what I call discovery practicing, where I'm really shooting some pretty gnarly technical targets and not really worrying about if I break the target as much, but just about the exposure to that. So if you think about that, that's about 125, 150 targets. There's a difference between playing and training. So we want to go out with intent, and it's hard to find a partner that will do that. So that's the other thing, is you want to find people that'll go out and do that with you. And you have to know when you go out whether it's going to be a day of intent and training, or is it going to be a play day?
Right.
Gotcha.
So question number 2 comes from Garrett. And Garrett asks, what style of shooting do you teach? And he actually asked a twofold question here. He said, what style of shooting do you teach, and what's the best way to get a hold of you to set up a lesson?
All right. So when I was in the classroom, I was a high school government teacher, economics teacher. I taught middle school. And what I realized was you would arrive to school the first day and there would be 20 students looking at you. And each one of those students, every single one of them, the plumbing inside of their brain is totally different. We're not CNC machines. A plus B doesn't always equal C with human beings. So what I like to do with students is find out what background they came from. I came from a skeet shooting background, so I really learned a lot of maintain lead. And I always felt, never ever let the bird beat the barrel. Well, then I started learning I was getting pickpocketed on targets, and especially tight quartering slow targets. So now I'll come from the back edge of those targets, or even me being left-handed for a right to left crosser. If a target is screaming and crossing and it's not that far, I'm not afraid to insert and pull away. So I think you have to really, really understand what each person comes to. Because I got a kid that I coach, Max Hatfield, and for the longest time, I tried to get him to start on the front of targets because he likes using swing through on everything. Well, I tried and I said, you know what, the heck with this. We're going to make him the best swing through shooter he can be because he has that natural move. I was just talking to Jared Roomer the other day, and we were talking about Roger Becker. Roger Becker shoots, I hope I'm not wrong, but we were talking about it. Roger Becker shoots with one eye closed, and he shoots everything swing through. So it's not as much about coaching a specific style. It's about introducing those techniques to the student and seeing which one he or she buys into the best, or which move he or she comes to with a baseline in it. So I'm not trying to dodge the question. It's just I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all for every shooter.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's definitely a good point.
I think you and I talked about that once. If a guy comes to you and he's predominantly more of a pull-away, you're going to work off of that and try to improve what he's doing instead of just trying to rewrite his program.
Yeah, we're going to tighten that pull-away up. And, I was up in Michigan. First lesson I ever took with Matt Hudeman, he introduced me to pull away. And I left that coaching session just baffled by what I was able to incorporate into my own shooting. Not that I was going to use that move on every single target, but it was unbelievable what I could add to my tool chest.
Right.
So I would say, if someone's taking a super dogmatic approach to teaching you a one-size-fits-all, there's nothing wrong with asking that coach, here's what I bring to the table. Do you mind if I still use this style and incorporate what you're trying to teach me?
Right.
Yeah. And hopefully the coach will understand that and adjust his training to fit that mold.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
and there are some coaches out there that, hey, it's my way or the highway, and I can understand that. They have so much conviction in what they teach, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's, Nick Saban is different than Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is different than Pete Carroll, right?
Right.
absolutely. So real quick, can you throw out there how somebody can get a hold of you if they want a lesson with you?
Sure. Cell phone, 440-724-1735. I'm always available. Reach out to me by phone or text, or check out my website at www.billelliottcoaching.com and send me a message, or by email, billelliottcoaching@gmail.com.
Awesome. And of course, you're all over Facebook. You're easy to find. I know you're on the National Sporting Clays website, so that's awesome.
So someone posted today, why do you only post slow motion videos? I'm like, I don't know, because you can actually see the targets.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey guys, let's get to Derrick. He's waiting on the phone with us, so let's get to Derrick Mine.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
On the phone with us, we have a man that really needs no introduction. After several world and national championships, and now a current Olympian that's going to be shooting for Team USA, Derrick Mine. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great now that you're joining us.
Yeah, welcome, Derrick.
Between you and Bill, I'm all kind of giddy over here. I'm starstruck.
Derrick, how you doing? Bill here. How you been?
Doing all right.
Good.
Trying not to freeze.
Yeah, it's unseasonably cold over there, isn't it?
Yeah, we had our coldest recorded temperature in 30 years
Wow.
last week. Luckily, I was still in Florida when that happened.
That puts a dampener on the shooting, doesn't it, Bill? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we deal with it all the time over here, and it's not fun. So, Derrick, let me get into some questions we have for you. With the Olympics approaching, as well as the sporting clay season, how has this affected your training across both disciplines?
I really haven't ever changed my training approach. I usually try and work on basic fundamentals, and that for me seems to cross over between disciplines pretty easy. So that's really hasn't changed my approach a whole lot. I will start making a concerted effort to get on a bunker and make sure I'm really tuned up for that in the next month or so. But as far as overall training, it's not really going to change a whole lot.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question. Are you still planning to shoot as much sporting as possible and compete that way, or are you just kind of like solely focused on the Olympics right now?
I'm definitely focused on the Olympics. You never know. It could be a once-in-a-lifetime achievement or chance to go compete in the Olympic Games. So I definitely don't want to waste that opportunity. But at the same time, I'm a firm believer that competition helps, and it doesn't matter what you're competing at. So my plan is to shoot as much between now and Tokyo.
So, Derrick, if we can rewind, you were talking about basic fundamentals in training. Recently, I was with a fella who was talking about, can he use his same gun for trap as he does for skeet as for sporting clays? And I brought you up. I said, just one of the best, or the best shotgun shooters in the world. If I remember, you use your same gun pretty much for everything, correct?
Yeah, last year, I went and I shot the Grand American trap shoot, and I also shot the World Skeet Shoot, made the Olympic team, as well as won the National Sporting Clays Championship, all with the exact same setup on my gun. I never changed the comb height, anything. About the only thing I changed was my chokes.
And when you talk about your training with basic fundamentals, can you elaborate on that just a little bit more? Is it pointability? Is it eyes? Is it your core? Is it the target? Like, really, what do you mean by that when you talk about basic fundamentals?
All of the above. You have to be able to repeat what you do if you want to be successful. And so, sometimes that means going out and training your gun mount, or training how you acquire the targets when they come off the machine. Training eye strength and eye quickness, stuff like that. So you go work on all those little things, hold points, timing on when you move in relation to the target. All of that stuff is all part of my basic fundamentals that I go out and work on.
Gotcha. Well, Derrick, hey, this is Sean. I got a quick question for you. I mean, with as busy as the year that you're going to have, I mean, how do you still find time to coach? Are you still able to coach this year, or is that going to be kind of put on the back burner a little bit?
It'll probably take a little bit of a cutback, just, run out of time, more or less.
Right.
But I'll still have some available dates, and, most of that will be in the Kansas City area. If people want to come to me, will certainly be a lot easier to get scheduled than trying to make a trip out of trying to teach on the road somewhere.
And if we have any interested listeners, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Derrick?
Best way is to either shoot me an email at dmine@live.com or send me a message on Facebook.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, and I know you get a new shooter that comes to you for some coaching, and he or she may show up in a group, or he or she may come to you by his or herself. How do you take that person, Derrick, from that one lesson, just take it and grow the sport? What's that first coaching session like, and how do you think that helps grow our sport?
Well, I always look at it with a new shooter as I'm there to help them have fun, because if they have fun, they're going to come back. And, some people are more competitive than others. So some people might lean more towards into the heavily competitive side of the sport, whereas other people just do it for enjoyment. And if I do my job correctly and help them break more targets, they're going to have more fun. They're going to come back and do it again and do it more often.
So maybe it might be a guy looking to just for a little bit of help, and then as he progresses, then maybe he's more into the competitive side, and you help him even further.
Yeah, definitely. Some people will try and get it all right now, and fortunately that's hard for me to relay sometimes. That this is a long process. It's not an overnight quick fix. So you have to grow in the sport if you want to progress and become more competitive at a higher level.
Right. Well, Derrick, I want to talk about targets for a minute. You have always been someone that shoots targets off the arm or really fast out of the trap. What is it about that works for you, this faster method of shooting?
For honestly, a lot for me has to do with growing up in Kansas where the wind always blows. The straightest flight of the target was always right out of the machine. And so that kind of led to, I've got very fast focusing eyes that allow me to lock onto a target very quickly. And so it just kind of, it meshed very well for me. That being said, I get myself in trouble quite often by shooting too quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see the advantage of it even in an area that's not windy, because you're not letting the target setter beat you with deception. So you're getting it when it's at its straightest, flattest point. But is this something that you try to emphasize in your teaching method when you do teach, or are you really not focused on that style for everyone?
It's kind of like when somebody's running track or playing baseball, playing football. You can't teach speed.
Right.
And so I don't ever try and teach someone to shoot as fast as I do, because not everybody is capable of doing it. Now, a lot of people are more capable of shooting quicker than they realize if they use proper setup, proper technique, and allowing their eyes to acquire the target quickly. They're more capable of shooting quicker than they believe. But it's all relative to each person individually on what timing is most comfortable for them.
Gotcha.
Hey, Derrick, I've got a personal question for you. So let me throw this scenario at you just because it happened to me recently. So I'm in a tournament. I'm on a good run. I need to finish strong. I know that I'm doing well. My score is good. But I get into a station, and right off the rip, I miss the first pair. So all of a sudden, everything kind of short circuits, right? How would you recommend, or how do you handle that kind of scenario, and how would you tell a student, how do you stay in it mentally and recover and move forward?
Well, it's hard not to panic in that situation.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's human nature to panic, and so we're constantly fighting that. And really, it all goes back to the training of those basic fundamentals that I talked about. You have to rely on those and trust those when you get into those high pressure situations.
Gotcha.
Do you remember maybe as you were coming up through the ranks, like I feel like there's got to be a place in our memory bank that we can go to. Like, for example, there was one time at Hillendale Club where I remember I went 2 of 6 on the first station, and then 4 of 6 on the next station, and then ran the course out. And so I always have that rock to go to in my memory. Like, hey, you know what? You're going to be okay. You've been in a situation like this before. Do you have a memory bank that you go to for situations like that? Or you're just at a point now where you're like, you know what? I'm Derrick Mine. I'm going to be okay.
Well, I try and convince myself that I'll just be okay. But you have to rely on your experiences. And it's just like any other task that you do. The more you do something, the more comfortable you're going to be in those scenarios. And so the more times you put yourself in position to be successful at the end of the tournament, the more comfortable you're going to be in those situations, the better you'll handle missing that pair at one of the last stations, or, when you're getting down to crunch time and maybe you miss that pair or something. It's just like anything else. And I always tell everyone, the guy that tells you he's never choked has never put himself in a position to choke.
Say that one more time.
The guy that says he's never choked or given away a tournament at the end has never put himself in that situation.
Yeah, that's a good way to
That's
look
well
at it.
said, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
well said.
So I would say I've given away probably 5-1 tournaments in the last half of the last day that I've actually completed and won. It's just it's human nature to start thinking about everything going on around you in those pressure situations.
Sure.
And it's hard to overcome.
Gotcha. Derrick, I asked this question of just about everybody here recently, and this oftentimes can shed a light to one of our listeners. What is like one small change that you've made during, in your game or during your training that you feel made the biggest impact or made the biggest change in your game? Can you simplify something down like that? Just one thing that you thought maybe made the biggest difference in your shooting?
For me, it was making a concerted effort to slow down and make sure I got fully connected with the target before I pulled the trigger.
Yeah, excellent.
That was always what plagued me. When I'd get into the high pressure situations, my natural tendency was to speed up a little bit. And so that would always cost me targets. And after years and years of working on making sure I was fully connected prior to pulling the trigger, it's helped work itself out.
I can definitely relate to that.
Derrick, have you noticed over the past, let's say, 10 years, you see targets that are kind of, they'll start on edge and they'll fan up to belly, or they'll fan up to dome, and they're peaking, and they're kind of just coming over the hill like a slow roller coaster. And even though they may be far and out there, it's still the sweet spot. And I'll hear people say, oh, I feel like I'm riding that target. Well, you're not really riding it. You're just waiting to control it. Do you know what I mean? Or does that make sense?
Yeah, what happens with a lot of people is they panic when they spend too much time in the gun swinging with the target. So one of the things I try and get my students to help understand is, you're not just swinging with the target to swing with the target. You're swinging with it for a purpose, and that purpose is to get the best visual look at the target you can, as well as be as connected as possible when it's time to pull the trigger. And sometimes you have to let that target open up to where you have enough of it to see, where you can get fully connected. And a lot of times you can't just wait for that target to open up and then mount your gun and make your move to shoot it. That's very inconsistent at best.
So you're
so
saying
you have to,
that move, mount, shoot type move to that specific type of target sometimes won't allow you to connect?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah, I talk about that often. Like, I think movement, I'm a bird hunter. We train bird dogs. We upland flushers, and move, mount, shoot works great when hunting over a flusher. But now I don't, there's just a lot of area where it's more mount, move, shoot, where I see like you're working to make that connection with the target versus just insert into the gap, bang. You're waiting to feel that line.
Yeah, so the style that I kind of shoot is, in a way, it's a version of move, mount, shoot, but the gap between the move part and the shoot part is sometimes can be a long stretch of the flight path where I'm moving the target to get connected.
Gotcha.
It's not pull the trigger as soon as the gun hits the shoulder. That is where I feel like the inconsistencies can come in.
Derrick, I had a question about your gun. I know you were shooting the Kohler Max Light Sporting. Have you got your hands on the new, I think it's called the Max Clay. It's a new flat rib.
Yeah, so I've got one. I've shot it a little bit. It's definitely going to be a very popular setup for Kohler. I feel like it gives us a traditional sporting gun for a lot of people. And that was something that a lot of people were asking about was, hey, why don't you make a true flat rib? And for sporting clays, that a true flat rib is very advantageous for a lot of people.
So you're gonna stick with your Max Light for now to get through the Olympics then? Is that what you're saying? Or are you gonna try to get adjusted to that flat rib ahead of time?
No, I'm going to stick with my ramp rib at least through Tokyo. It's treated me pretty good the last 5 years.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I'd be terrified going to the Olympics to try a new gun. But that you pretty much answered my next question is, will you be shooting a high rib and bunker trap? But you're pretty much going to stick with the same gun no matter what, right?
Right. Yeah. So I wouldn't classify my ramp rib as a high rib.
No.
It's such a small little ramp up that it's not a lot different than the flat rib, but it is up just a little bit.
Yeah, I actually had a Kohler high rib. It was actually the old 750 bore, and I went to the same gun you have, which is the Max Light Sporting. It's a ramp tapered rib. I just didn't know if for bunker trap, you know what I mean? A lot of those guys are using a high rib. I didn't know if you would use that to compete in the Olympics, or you're just going to stick with your sporting gun right across the whole gamut.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't realize there's not very many people shooting a true high rib gun in bunker.
Oh, really?
A lot of people are shooting a flat rib or a small step rib or a ramp rib like my Kohler has. But the high ribs were used a lot in double trap in the Olympics, but that game is no longer part of the Olympic Games. So the high ribs have kind of drifted away because of that, and most people are shooting something that's a fairly flat rib.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of guns, Derrick, so here's a great question we have from a lot of guys that are getting into the sport. A lot of new guys go into shooting sporting clays. They're typically shooting their hunting gun, whether it's a pump or an auto or something like that. And then, they get into this and they kind of get hooked a little bit. Then they're starting to consider getting an actual target gun to actually bust clays with. What would be your recommendation for a person's first target gun? I'm not trying to sell any guns or anything like that. I'm just saying, from your point of view, if a guy's going to take the step from going to his trusty hunting gun into a dedicated target gun, where would you try to point them in the direction of, what type of a gun would you get them in first?
And to elaborate more on what you asked there, Sean, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
I think what we're looking for is what's something that you look for in a balance or a feel in a gun that you think better suits for sporting shooting?
Well, most people that are bird hunters are used to a very flat shooting gun, and there's nothing wrong with that. I shoot a gun that shoots fairly flat. I've got my comb height up to give me a higher sight picture over the gun, but the gun itself doesn't shoot very high. So I try and steer people towards a gun that's pretty neutral balanced. A lot of the weight is between your hands. That helps soak up recoil, because you can get a little bit heavier gun and still have something that you can move. But that's really what I recommend to people is stay away from something that's real barrel heavy or something that's real stock heavy. Both of those can lead to issues down the road.
Derrick, have you ever had I've had people come to coaching sessions and they'll say, well, why should I get a Kohler or a Zoli or a Krieghoff or a Blaser and I'll look at them or they'll say, should I wait to buy a gun like that? And and I'll ask them, okay, why do you drive a Tesla? Why do you drive a Denali? Why do you drive a Mercedes-Benz? I mean, I see people thinking they have to earn a nice shotgun. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like it definitely benefits someone to learn how to shoot the game properly before they go and spend a lot of money on a gun, just because it can be quite a bit to put out there. But once you've kind of figured out how to shoot the game, there's certainly no reason not to go ahead and step up and buy one of the premier guns on the market. Simply from the standpoint of that they're pretty much all lifetime guns anymore. The Kohlers, Krieghoffs, they can all be rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt, and you never have to worry about the receiver wearing out. And
right.
So you've got a scenario where you can literally shoot that gun the rest of your life, mm-hmm. and then pass it on to your kids or your grandkids, and they'll be able to shoot it the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's an investment.
The legacy.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's well said, because I've seen a lot of people have this mindset that you can't step into one of these, I'm going to call it like the top 6 of manufacturers. You name your favorite, Zoli, Kohler, Krieghoff, on down the list, Perazzi, whatever. I have a lot of people that I talk to that think that they can't step into that until they're a masterclass shooter, and that's not the case. It's, if you can afford to do it, it's a gun that's going to last. If you're stepping in one of these big 6, correct me if I'm wrong, Derrick, but it's a gun that's going to outlast your grandchildren, right? If properly taken care of. And why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not shoot with the best? Who cares what class you're in? It has nothing to do with the ability. It's whether or not, number one, if you can afford it, and number two, you got a gun that you can grow with. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. There's a lot of truth to that. I always encourage anyone that asks my opinion to go out and buy the best gun that you are comfortable spending money on. If that's $7,000-$8,000, then go buy the best $7,000-$8,000 shotgun you can buy. If that's 10 to 12 to 15, go buy the best gun that you feel comfortable spending the money on, because ultimately you're going to be the most satisfied with that product.
Yeah, and with that being said, and I've said it several times on this show, my Kohler Max Light Sporting, it's a $12,000 shotgun. In the grand scheme of things, to be honest, and Derrick, you know exactly where I'm coming from on this, between tournaments and shells for tournaments and practice, I'm going to spend more money than that this year on shells and tournaments than I will on my gun. And that gun will last me forever. So, you know what I mean? I think the gun, no matter how expensive it is in the grand scheme of things, is really not the major expense in this.
You're absolutely right. We're going to spend a lot of money on ammo and entry fees throughout the year. And, for someone just starting out in the game, yeah, you're probably better off to hold on to that money and spend it on the ammo and the practice and the coaching until you start to develop your own style, and then you can go pick the best gun that suits you from that point forward. But the gun is definitely one of the cheaper expenditures in the game.
Yeah. I have one real quick question, and then Sean, we're going to turn Sean over to the rapid fire questions here. But Derrick, your list of accomplishments is a mile long. You've got to be super proud of them. But is there still one thing left on the bucket list for you, or maybe two, so a win that you really want to accomplish in sporting that you haven't got yet? I mean, obviously the gold in Olympics is your priority right now, but I'm going back to just the sporting. Is there something still out there that you want, something that's on Derrick's bucket list?
Well, I've never won a U.S. Open. I've been runner-up, and actually the last time the Open was at Claythorne, I had a really bad next to last station that pulled me off the podium. So I've been close a couple times, but never have quite been able to close the door on the U.S. Open.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be a big bucket list check mark.
Yeah. Well, you guys got any other questions for Derrick? I want to try to do the rapid fire because Derrick, I don't know if you listen to our podcast, but we do a rapid fire series of questions about the gear and stuff that you use to shoot, and our listeners are always anxious to hear what everybody uses. So if you're ready, I'll go ahead and start firing them off to you.
All right.
Okay. All right. So first up, what gun do you shoot? I already know this, but go ahead and answer it.
I shoot a Kohler Max Light, 32-inch.
Okay. And then,
with a legend engraving pattern.
Okay. And then what chokes do you use?
Pure Gold Champion Series.
Okay. And do you have a favorite constriction?
Improved Modified.
Okay. And do you change chokes throughout the course?
I do some.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. What's your favorite shells?
Federal Papers.
And what's your recipe?
1 ounce at 1,290 feet per second.
7.5s or 8s?
Both.
Both. Okay. Good. Glasses.
I use Pila Outlaw X6s.
Okay. Ear protection?
ESP.
Vest or shell bag?
I wear a Castellani vest.
Castellani vest. Okay. Am I forgetting anything?
I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's
okay.
it for the rapid fire.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
Well, Derrick, listen, you got the whole country behind you, man, and we have faith in you that you can pull this off, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck at the Olympics this year. I'm very confident in what you're going to bring home. I'm not going to jinx you, but, you've got us pulling for you for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, it's certainly an honor to get to represent the U.S. and all the shooters from the U.S. So I just hope that I get blessed with putting up my best performance and can represent the country as good as possible.
Go kill it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Derrick, do you have any sponsors you want to thank before we let you go?
Your wife and daughter.
I'd like, yes, definitely my wife and daughter. You know, they're a big support zone for me. You know, of course, Kohler has treated me really well, but White Flyer, Promatic, Pure Gold, Castellani, Tom at Ultimate Shooting Accessories, and then Federal Ammo have all taken really good care of me, and definitely would recommend those to anybody that is looking for a new product to use.
Well, Derrick, they definitely have a solid shooter in you, and like I said, we wish you nothing but the best. And
I can't forget Winnig Custom Gun Stocks.
oh, okay, yes.
Without their craftsmanship, it'd be hard to be as consistent as I've been the last several years.
Awesome.
Very
awesome.
good. Well, Derrick, we appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy individual with all this training between two different disciplines you have going on, plus coaching, and of course, you're still a father and a husband. So we greatly appreciate your time. Like I said, nothing but the best of luck to you this year at the Olympics. And, I know you got us pulling for you for sure.
Well, thank you, guys.
Well, hey, you have a good evening, Derrick. Thank you again, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Derrick.
All right. No problem. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
What do you think, Sean? We just had a national world champion and an Olympian on the show.
Yeah, Derrick's full of great information. Hopefully that was enjoyable for all of our listeners.
Did you ever think when we started this that we would have the epitome of shooters on our show?
It's pretty humbling, especially coming from our background. It really is. It's really nice to talk to these big names and garner some knowledge from them.
And look at all the great shooters you caught up with last week at the Gator Cup.
Oh, no doubt. And the scary thing was I walked next to 10 times as many.
Yeah.
You know, they were just riding around on golf courts or carts or walking around. I mean, it's insane.
Bill, Derrick brought up he's sponsored by Winnig Custom Stocks. You're working on a custom stock right now. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. One of the things, if you listen to what Derrick was talking about, this journey never ends. The best golfers, the best basketball players, wrestlers, football players, whatever they are, like they're always trying to grow. And I noticed in the past 8 or 9 months, I was feeling a burning rub after a strong amount of shooting on my lower chest area. And the one thing that I noticed was that my stock was kind of dropping. And while I was at the Zoli Classic, I'm very fortunate to be there. There was gun fitters there, so I met with Mike Leopold from SNS and just said, "Hey, could you look at this real quick?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know exactly." And Norbert was there, and they said, "Just try moving the pad up a little bit." So I moved the pad up about a quarter of an inch, not much, and it was all the difference in the world. I remember I went over to the 5 stand, and Chris Ferris and Rollins Brown were over there, and I'm shooting this gun, and I was just in awe because of the way it felt so different. Well, when I came home, I shot the gun, and it feels great, so I reached out to Shirley Custom Stocks in Texas and said, "Hey, I have the fit down. I just need this duplicated now." And so I sent the gun out Sunday, and there's a really quick turnaround there, so hopefully get it back and get it done, roughed in, and shoot it a little bit before I tell them to finish it. But, man, I can't tell you just how important if something isn't comfortable or if something isn't going right, seek a professional. And there's a difference between a gun fitter and a stock maker. Not all stock makers are gun fitters, and not all gun fitters are stock makers. And some are all of the above, but you want to make sure that when you go to see somebody that, hey, they are a fitter, they are a stock maker, or all the above.
Right.
Gotcha. Bill, that reminds me, I had a question to ask you on the first segment, and I'm going to bring it up now before we wrap it up. I know some of our listeners have written in about this exact subject, and I know originally you started off as a right-handed shooter, left-eye dominant, and then you found out that was the case, and you made the switch. You went to a left-handed gun to match up with your left-handed seeing ability, your left-eye dominant, sorry.
Sure.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about, what made you go that route, and how much time did it take you to transition that? Because that had to have been challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, I think one of the questions I ask any shooter on their first coaching session is, what's your commitment level? And I knew what my commitment level was because I was already committed, and I didn't understand eye dominance to the extent that I do right now. I've spent a lot of time understanding eye dominance, and anyone that says eye dominance is not a real issue, I'm just gonna say, hey, let's just beg to differ. When I switched over, I went from shooting in the mid 80s to the low 40s, and I was hitting targets that I couldn't believe. I just couldn't understand. Oh my gosh, why am I hitting this target? I'm used to seeing this picture. I'm used to. It was just unbelievable. And then I spent the whole summer on the skeet range because I knew if I could hit stations 3, 4, and 5 on the skeet range, that tight window of speed, angle, and distance, and then increasing that to true pairs, it was. It took about 6 or 7 months to really get ramped up. And I'm very conscious of my FITASC move because switching from right hand to the left hand, I'm like, man, would you be better off to shoot FITASC right-handed and just squint your left eye or put a dot over your left eye? But
Right.
It is a process. I journaled the whole process because I wanted to see what it would. You know, we don't remember the first shots that we took with a shotgun, nor did we probably journal it. So it was nice to journal that and create kind of a curriculum from that. And I know there's other people out there that have done it, and they've done it successfully. And, you know, it's every night doing mounting mirrors in the drill, doing mounting drills in the mirror. And just your shoulder, your front delt tie-in and everything is just so sore. And you're like, holy cow, I can't believe it. But
That's probably why that question about what's your level of commitment. That's what you're going to be after if you're going to make a move like that.
It really is huge. But then I go back to what Jared Rumor and I were talking about. You take a guy like Roger Becker, right-handed, shoots with one eye closed and shoots everything swing through. Like, he found a way to do it. And there's other people out there that we just don't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and on that note, we want to thank Bill for coming in and answering the questions. And that's a reminder to all of our listeners, questions for the coaches. We need them, and we appreciate everybody writing in. In addition, the reminder also goes out to our listeners. Get those photographs in for that Cardinal corporate gift card giveaway. That's going to be 3,000 targets, a free golf cart provided for each visit. That's donated by the boys over there, Jake and Luke Spangler at the Cardinal Center. We can't thank them enough. We're going to run that until, I think, the end of March. Is that correct? And do a drawing in April?
Yeah, Bill's supposed to be drawing somewhere around the 1st of April for that. So send the pictures, put them right on our Facebook page. And I made a Facebook page and a Facebook, Jiminy Christmas. I made a Facebook page group. Okay, so they can go there and post it, or they can post it on our page. They can email it to us.
Yeah,
you know,
just get it into us because every entry in there is a chance
Right.
for you guys to win. So
exactly.
do it. And then, Bill, I think you had something to mention.
Yeah, you know, remember the Ohio State Championship is coming up in August at Hillendale Club in Medina, Ohio. And I'm in charge of helping the sponsors for that event. We have 4 different levels: $250, $750, $1,500, and $3,000. We really want to see people's involvement and really make this a premier event. So I appreciate you guys letting me give a shout out about the Ohio State Championship.
Yeah, and I want to give another quick shout out to Jared Harnish, sportingclaysnation.com. Really appreciate your help over there, Jared. And you guys need to go check this out because this is an avenue where the Facebook police aren't going to throw you in Facebook jail for talking about guns and shooting and all that other kind of crap. So it's a really cool site that he's created. Place people can sell guns, you know, and create classified listings and talk about shoots without being harassed, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
So you guys need to check that out for sure.
Yeah, and another thing, one more big thank you to Negrini Cases for being an affiliate with us at the Dead Pair Podcast. Can't thank you guys enough. Negrini, we case your memories.